Well, people have been celebrating all night in other parts of town as well.
We want to show you some of that reaction. Tiani Jones is at the Carreta on Bird Road and 87th Avenue. Tiani.
No, guys, it's actually me, Marybel Rodriguez. I've been here since 2 o'clock this morning. As you can see, there's not much of a crowd. It has died down. We arrived at around 2. The sidewalk completely packed with people. The street looked more like rush hour traffic. I saw people hugging, people crying, people wrapped in the Cuban flag. They were also waving the American flag, thanking this country for the freedom. They left Cuba in search of freedom and they found it here, but they still have Cuba in their heart and in their soul. You know, a lot of people here didn't even sleep. They heard the news after midnight and came out here to celebrate, as I always say, South Florida style, with their pots and pans. That crowd has gone home, but it's the news. It's the news that the Cuban exile community has been waiting decades to hear. Hundreds of Cuban Americans took to the streets in Westchester moments after hearing the news that Fidel Castro had died.
Not only this is a gracious day, this is a day of history. My grandkids, my great-grandkids, well, I have my grandchildren with me. You have to come and celebrate this because your grandmother suffered a lot.
We don't want to celebrate anybody's death, but we're going to celebrate a better chance that Cuba has now to become again a democratic republic. Another tyranny, a communist tyranny.
Too much pain in your heart. A lot of pain?
Oh, no.
Not today.
Not today.
Not today. Outside La Carreta restaurant, the young and old together, holding Cuban and American flags, chanting Cuba Libre, the tyrant is dead.
And hopefully it's a new chapter, and there's still many more pages to turn, and hopefully it's a betterment for the Cuban people, for those in Cuba who are still suffering, for those who are being punished every day, for those who are in jail, who are being tortured.
And for the thousands who lost their lives.
And those who are here now, you know, in Miami and can maybe enjoy some of this.
It's a day all Cuban Americans have been waiting for.
As a conjugal visit baby of a political prisoner, I feel very proud that my 80-year-old father can witness this day today, and I pray for all the people who haven't been able to, but I'm also very excited that this brings unity, which we so need in today's society. So I hope that this is the beginning of that, of the unification of cultures and of something amazing.
And back out live, as you can see, a much different scene. What a difference just a few hours makes. I'm sure once people start waking up, it is a Saturday, a holiday weekend. Once they start waking up and hearing the news, I'm sure they will be out. It is a very popular spot for the Cuban exile community. I've been out here for Heat celebrations, Marlin celebrations. I was even out here when Fidel Castro transferred power to his brother back in 2006. And I have to tell you, what I felt and what I witnessed early this morning out here was nothing. Did not compare whatsoever. The emotion is still very raw. I spoke with people who arrived from Cuba 5 years ago. I spoke with people who arrived from Cuba 50 years ago. And that love and that passion for Cuba is still in their hearts. So no doubt it is a very emotional day. I was born and raised here in South Florida to Cuban parents, very proudly to say so. And it's a story that's very, very close to our heart, one that we've been preparing to report for a very long time.
And Marybel, amazing stories out there. Talk to us about the significance of being able to gather and voice opposition and voice celebration for people who haven't been able to do so in their home country.
Listen, that's what they come to this country for. So many hundreds of thousands of people that lost their lives, all the thousands of political prisoners that are in Cuba right now suffering for freedom, and they're in jail because they don't have the right, the freedom of speech. People that have to risk their lives, you know, in the straits to come to this country for freedom, and that's what they're doing here today. A lot of people we spoke with say they're not celebrating someone's death, they're celebrating the death of a tyrant, of a dictator that caused so much harm to hundreds and thousands of families, that separated hundreds and thousands of families. That is what we are celebrating here today, and they're thankful to this country, to this great nation of ours, for opening their arms and letting them be here freely and do what they did here today.
Marybel, talk to us about hopes for the future and what the expectations are among people in the exile community here in South Florida. Do they think that the death now, finally, after all of these years of Fidel Castro, even though he hasn't been in power in a number of years, the symbolic passing of this man who has loomed so large on the world stage, will that bring about some of the changes that people here in this country would like to see take place in Cuba?
Right. Well, you know, Rick, they're very hopeful. You have to keep in mind that Fidel Castro, as you said, he was the face of communism for so many years. But then again, you have this new generation in Cuba that didn't really grow up with him, because it was more Raul Castro back in 2006. He transferred power to his brother. So it's a little different. But here, the exile community, they're hoping and praying, because they're saying out here, this is basically all that we can do. Now that that symbol, that face of communism is gone, and they also feel that his brother doesn't have that pull, doesn't have that power, that convincing power for the Cuban people. So they're hoping that now that Fidel Castro is gone, that maybe, hopefully, things will change at least a little, obviously, for the human rights there for the people in Cuba, which is what they're hoping for.
All right, Marybel Rodriguez, thank you so much.